Happy Monday from Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint, and Ohio State is bowl eligible, Bob.
Hey.
It's your favorite thing to celebrate every year.
It is because
Let's go bowling.
I've got my December 28th hotel and flight accommodations set up for the Alamo Bowl.
Oh, not the Pop-Tarts Bowl?
And back to the river walk,
I don't know. Is that a thing?
What's
Pop-Tarts?
Yeah. Orlando.
What else? What other options do we have?
I don't know. Let's
we
not.
still have a Sun Bowl tie-in?
Let's
Is
not.
that this?
Let's not go to the
El
worst case
Paso.
scenario.
No, that's a
Ooh, beautiful that time of year.
No, come on. Everything is still to play for Ohio State, but that might be the extent of the fun part of this conversation. That's Justin Zwick, Nicole Cox, Bobby Carpenter.
I don't know. It's fun and drama.
I am Austin Ward. Fun,
Keep us on
casual
our toes.
drama. Ohio State wins 21-17 against Nebraska. And Jay-Z, you felt how?
Oh boy, not good. I think is the best way to put it. I expected them to come out of a bye week off the tough loss to Oregon with their hair on fire. Just after what we saw happen to Nebraska last week against Indiana, I thought we'd put some points on the board and just kind of walk away and kind of like a feel-good game. Like, all right, we're back, feeling good about things, going into another big one, on the road, and it just didn't happen. I thought the game started off like that, the first 3 or so plays, and then you get
3 and out.
Well, you get to 3 and out, you get the shanked punt. You're like, hey, here we go, 7-0. We're on the, and then we get stopped on a 4th and 1. It's like, why?
It seemed like there were multiple times where it was about to
they almost
open.
break open, and then just something would happen, and you can't have that. Now I know we're trying to figure out that front five on the offensive side of the ball. Not a great start and not a great game. I don't think they ever really got that going or felt good up there, which is scary going into the rest of the season. But they found a way to win. Defense came up big in the fourth quarter, got a couple stops for us, interception to seal the game, and big goal line stand. I think in the middle of the third.
Yeah,
huge after the interception. You get your backs against the wall. So there are some positives, but I did not expect that game to go that way, and I don't think most of Ohio did either.
Nicole, Ohio State 21, Nebraska 17 made you feel how?
I was.
You almost
You almost caught
Out
it.
the gate.
You almost
Sorry,
caught
it's that
it.
time of year, guys. I was a little confused. I think I just expected something a little more explosive.
They had two big touchdown passes.
They did, which was great. It was. I don't know how to describe it. I've never felt this way watching a game before.
Were you at the stadium?
No, I was at the stadium in the morning. I felt like it was crowded. I felt like people were excited. It was a
Nice
beautiful
energy,
day. It was
beautiful
a
day.
gorgeous day. And then I got to go home and watch the game, which I prefer to do that just so I can really focus and rewind if I need to. And I texted you guys. I was like, I'm going to have a lot of questions because I just don't understand why we couldn't get those explosive plays. But like you said, we had the stop inside the 5-yard line that we needed. We had to make that happen, and I don't want to put a shadow over that. That was a big deal that we had to make that happen. So I'm glad they did. I have a question for you guys, and I just came to my head, so I didn't have a chance to kind of look it up, and you might not know off the top of your head, but do you think coming off a bye week had anything to do with it? Like where I feel like when you're used to like going, every week having a game, not having a game might have thrown us off a little bit.
I think there is an element where you can be sluggish, like coming off of it, just getting back into that routine and game element. It was very interesting, Nicole, that you said there was a lot of energy because I kind of felt that before the game, the 2014 National Championship. They're getting honored, 10-year reunion, and you had the big play to Carnell. There's some good things that happened. But for most of the second and third quarter in Austin, did you go, Jay-Z?
No.
There was a general feeling of an uneasiness. It wasn't until the Arvell Reese targeting where the fans came alive and the water bottles came on the field.
I'm trying to get that call reversed.
So,
that's gonna
Jim
help.
Lachey goes,
Let's-
it's like a half a dozen. It was like 30.
no, there were a lot. And full beers, and I talked to some security people afterwards about that. So I don't – see, when Berman and I got to the stadium, Bob, and that's early. It was 3+ hours before kickoff.
8:30 is when it opens.
It did not feel like there was a ton of energy compared to the previous time in the Horseshoe at Iowa. I was like, people were ready
that
for
was
that.
3:30.
I'm not saying that every game is going to feel the same. And if we have different experiences, Nicole said there was energy. You felt there was some.
No, I felt there was energy outside of the
nice
stadium,
day.
not in the stadium.
Yeah, Once
But
you got
even
in there,
within the roster, I didn't feel like that existed during, like, they were late into the stadium. There was like miscommunication going on during
really?
warmups. They did a restart of a play during pregame where they missed a field. Jaden Fielding missed a field goal. They went down to do the punt. Ryan Day made him go do it over again. Like, I've never seen them do that. It was just like a disjointed pregame, and I just sat there and I was talking to Bill in the press box, and I thought, oh, today's going to be one of these grab-ass games. Like, I thought that was going to happen, and I wish that I had been wrong, but I wasn't.
Yeah, it just they never really felt like fully cohesive with that. And I mean, I guess on bright spots, I thought the defense played well, for what they were asked to do. Here's the one thing. Nebraska, I would tell you that I think Nebraska is probably about as good as Vanderbilt. And the problem was they just got smacked by Indiana last week. So I think that probably fooled people publicly, their expectations. And then I think probably maybe the players a little bit too, of just understanding like how good, like these guys just got blasted by Indiana. And you're thinking, okay, well, they're not bad. Like this Nebraska team is pretty good. Like they barely lost to Illinois. That's their third loss, losing to Iowa State. They may lose one or two more, but they're a much improved team.
Yeah, start the season, it's like, man, this could be a big game in Columbus.
Yeah, and defensively, they're a top 25 defense. Like they're good. Offensively, not great, but defensively, like especially the front seven, they've got some guys up there. I mean, they held Ohio State under 60 yards, like 65-ish yards, whatever the heck it is, on the ground.
2.1 yards per carry.
That was not good. And so, like, the question becomes, like, you start asking yourself, would you rather just watch him throw every play? Like, Will Howard, outside of his interception where he airmailed it in the safety, guy, other than that, I thought he played really well.
13 for 16.
Yeah. And ran it.
I think I would like to see more than 16, maybe not every play.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, but they only had the ball for 25 minutes.
I know.
The possessions were limited. I mean, Matt Rule had a good plan. Matt Rule's a good coach. Yeah. I guess part of it, like when they got stoned on the 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 in the third or fourth quarter right there, they were going right to left at that point toward the north end.
Yep.
Right around the 50. And I remember looking at that, and I was just like, wow. Like on 4th down, I'm like, okay, well, we just got stoned. Maybe we should do like a QB run, try to get some numbers on the box, and like let's do like not a zone read, like let's do a Q power. Yeah. Like let's load up and have 240-pound Will Howard. I watched him sneak it earlier and get 6 yards. Yeah, they only gave him 3, but somehow I don't even know how that works.
Right.
Was there an explanation for that on the
tele? There were a ton of questionable spots.
Will was like pointing. I guess we got the benefit of the doubt because the one on the goal line stand, he was probably about a yard closer. But
true.
Like let's do that. Like utilize him. That's why I think people have been waiting. Like this is a gotta have it situation. This isn't we're up by 28. Like we'll put something on tape. Yeah. No, we need to keep the chains moving. They just stoned us running it normally. We're not getting a lot of push. Let's get another guy in there. Get our quarterback. Get the numbers on our side. And I was surprised that wouldn't have been the answer. That they haven't gone to like a Q power in a 3rd or 4th and short situation.
They're gonna have to on Saturday.
Is that the one where they did the short little rollout, right?
No,
that was the last one. That was the final drive where you need. That was 4th and 1 though too, right? Had to have it, and you're rolling out throwing a 2-yard. Which hey, it worked. That's good.
Good thing that Mecca has great hands.
I know.
And that was a good ball by Will.
It was, yeah. I mean, a lot can go wrong there, but when you're going to that at the end of the game, you're like,
this. You're throwing it about 25 yards for 2 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's a long lateral throw, and the angle.
The defense knows you're not going deep here. They're playing up. They're playing tight.
Well, and that angle's tough for the receiver. Like you put it a little bit behind him, like the rolling back or it's too far. Like you're not. It was great, and they executed. It did well. It was the time before that, which is why I subsequently think they went.
That's why. Yeah, exactly.
Nicole, so you texted us that on Saturday that you had so many questions. The game wasn't over yet, and I think you probably thought, "Oh, sure, well, those guys will be ready to give answers." We have questions.
Well, when you guys were commenting back that you had questions as well, I was like, okay, so it wasn't just me.
By no means do I think that, the season's over. Start looking for the Sun Bowl or the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
I don't think
this
that
team
either.
can still accomplish its goals, and maybe on Saturday it will come out with the best effort of the season.
Maybe Capital One?
I don't know. We're going to find out. I mean, they're going to I think the question is about every part of the game. And if you have to have improved leadership, effort, execution, scheme. Like, they're going to have to figure something out at left tackle. I don't know what that's going to be. Perhaps Donovan Jackson. That was the emergency glass that they broke on Saturday.
That's the one thing, like in the game, you may make something that temporarily is good, but then if you have a whole week, I don't know if that'll be the permanent solution or not.
Well, that's again one of the questions that, like, when Nicole says there are questions, like that up until Zen Michalski's injury, and I do not want to be critical of someone who was giving his all and then got injured trying to help Ohio State. But they could have, if that was what they thought was the best option with 2 weeks to prepare, and they didn't want to try anything else up to that point when he was really struggling, that's another question. Like, there were 1,000 questions that emerged from that game that I was like fully expecting that we'd come in here on Monday and be like, Ohio State sent a message, they got right back on track, and now we're getting ready for one of the biggest games of the year. Can't wait. And that's not how I feel.
I think Penn State feels much better though.
I doubt it because they're dealing with injuries. They had to grind to a win
I mean, they were down, Coach, like late in that game. I mean,
and they're not. Ohio State is still favored in this game. So when I say everything,
Ohio
is in
State's
front
still
of,
fourth in the country.
yes, everything is still in front of them. They can still like their potential. And you mentioned this, Bob, that like every team, whether that's Texas and Vanderbilt, whether that was Georgia against Kentucky, whether like Penn State against Wisconsin, or Penn State against the MAC opponent in September, like if you don't show up to play in college football, you're going to get beat or you're going to look ugly playing.
You're going to get tested, yeah.
But if Ohio State doesn't play to its full potential again, what does that mean? I mean, they're going to have to play their best game on Saturday to win.
I feel that this is a moment where I just hope we're not, because of the loss, that the guys haven't, or the coaches haven't been too hard on the guys about it. I know this sounds crazy. I know tough love is you have to be hard on them. But I just feel like I hope that they can remind themselves they are the fourth in the country. They are great. They have the talent. We have a lot of veteran players that can go out there and be leaders. And I felt like we're showing that earlier this season. And I hope that they can remember that, because they're phenomenal. I remember us talking at the beginning of this season. I was like, I feel so great about the leadership, about how many players came back. It just felt like the puzzle was complete. I felt so great. And there have been a couple moments of, the Oregon game, and I'm sure that didn't feel great, but they're strong enough to like look past that and remember that they are, and they're favored in the Penn State game still. And Penn State, and we're playing in Penn State, which is the hardest environment to play in.
Yeah, noon game maybe not as hard.
Well, we lucked out with that. Yeah, we did luck out, but still,
it's going to be loud. It'll be
100%.
raucous, but
I don't know. It depends on if people are able to actually get to their seats or not.
Yeah, I mean they do a great job with that out there. We'll see what.
No, not when they have
sarcasm.
Not on any situation, and not when you add maybe both presidential candidates being in the stadium as well.
This is great then, guys. This is working to our benefit. So.
Not mine. I'm dreading the trip.
No,
well, yeah. Sorry for that. I just meant it's not going to be.
I know what you mean, Nicole.
I'm
just selfishly
getting wanded going into the media stuff. That's going to be great for you.
Yeah,
I know you're pumped.
I'm super excited.
But like they've got their own issue. You said everybody's got their own stuff. And Nicole, to your point, there is like a point, like yelling at guys and telling them they're terrible. That's not always the answer.
Thank you.
Bobby
and I are agreeing
I'm not,
on something. I love it.
There's an element now offensively where like you might need to try to infuse some conflict. Like we're going to correct things. It's not like you gloss over the issues, but there is an element of like we need to go in there confident. Yeah. Like when you start struggling like that and you're getting turned down on 3rd and 4th down, like maybe begin to ask yourself the questions like, are we as good as we thought?
Can we do this?
Yeah, it's not. We're great.
Yeah, we're just going to keep doing this.
They're kids. I mean, they're young. They're young men, and they also have social media, which you guys did. Was that big for you guys back then? No.
No, back then, Nicole, we're your age.
That's what I mean. I knew Facebook was back then, but I didn't know if you guys would see from the athletics, the sports fans level of.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end,
like
you get your messages on Facebook. Go, do this to yourself.
But now it's brutal. So I feel like that's another element that needs to be considered in coaching. That you have to remember that these guys are being criticized.
I don't know. I heard a thing from May. What's the Merriweather or whatever? That's the gambling place. The addiction
place?
Yeah.
Oh, Maryhaven?
Maryhaven. Mm-hmm. Maryhaven about not yelling at college athletes on social media now because we need that.
There you go.
I mean, we could just choose to be civil in society, but
good.
Throwing water bottles on the field now.
I mean, that would even if I hope they're able to block it out. But
these guys are more equipped for it because they've grown up with it. Mm-hmm. But there is an element, Nicole, where like if you've struggled, like you've got. I
don't think anybody who plays a game poorly at Ohio State need someone else to tell them.
Yeah.
That, like,
Oh
No,
yeah,
100%.
They're
They
already
came here.
critical
They-
enough on
they
themselves.
heard there were boos in the stadium. Like they heard that. That's real.
yeah, that wasn't social media. That was real life.
That was real life boos. Now, after the Arvell Reese targeting, that got like a little juice. I mean, maybe that's what we need. Maybe you need Arvell, someone like that, targeting early. Ryan Day about to just run out on the field and
Lose
attack
it.
the ref. I mean, you know who might get my Buckeye leaf
Quinn
is
Temple.
Quinn Temple.
Holding
Great
him back.
shuffle. Like he might be able to play left tackle. Did you see him?
He had great
shuffling,
great
great
footwork.
footwork.
The-
Kept him wide base so he didn't get
I think he might have actually
Quinn
caused
is the
some of the
best.
incidental contact with the ref, so it's close.
Ooh,
it's
close.
dicey, but
That was his first time, I mean.
well, it's not his first time.
Well,
Without- I mean-
Ryan Day has already got a
yeah,
penalty this
that's
year.
true. That's true.
Yeah, but not like he was. I mean, he was inside the
agree.
hash at that
Not
point.
happy.
And I
get
get it because I don't know what you want him to
I
do
don't-
in that
I've
situation.
seen so many hits all Saturday long that look worse than that one,
It's-
and either not flagged, not kicked out. I mean, it's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
it's
it's-
incredible.
It is. But that felt like it got some people going, and then we went down and scored.
Mhm.
Like so,
So?
I don't know. Maybe that's the solution.
Could be some correlation there.
Yeah, I hope
I
the
like
Big
that
Ten
theory.
reviews that. They're allowed to do midweek reviews now, so they can overturn a suspension, I guess, for the
Yeah,
second
because
half.
he'd be out for the first half.
I
But
don't think they will.
Of course they wouldn't. The guy was still reaching for the ball. I'm like, if he got targeted, you think he's like his head was
His
still
head
like
didn't even really snap back.
Exactly.
I mean,
They
it
were-
was a forearm for sure, and I don't know.
I mean, you can't control your body that much when you're going that fast, and
these
it's a
defensive
split
players,
second.
I don't understand how they play anymore.
forearm
nowadays.
to the chest.
Yeah. Give me a break.
Well, we'll see. I'm sure we'll be asking about that on Tuesday and Wednesday, but it's still Monday.
Oh, I'm sure Ryan's gonna love to answer.
yeah,
that.
no, he loves to talk about officiating. So already a Roosters.
He's
Buckeye
probably
leaf has
thinking,
been-
why couldn't I be like? Why couldn't we be in the ACC where
everything's
if I wear
Just
my
let it
hair
go.
everything's legal there?
targeting? No, that's not
No.
targeting.
Get
You know
outta
what?
here.
And it's a fumble. Give him the ball. Go
Exactly.
score.
Do whatever you want. So Bob has already given one Buckeye leave to Quinn Temple. Who do you have, Nicole?
I have Cody Simon. I just
Oh, great
felt
job.
like I agree. He was where he needed to be. He reacted quickly. It was impressive.
He was awesome.
Yes.
8 tackles, 3 tackles for loss.
Defensive player of the week.
Every time Nebraska, Silver Bullet of the day.
Yeah.
Every time Nebraska tried to run one of those screens, which was far too often and far too dumb, Cody Simon or Denzel Burke were there to snuff that out. It was great.
He got the
Yeah, well,
flare
I
out
I want
play
to
in the
give one
back.
to Denzel too because he didn't really get tested a lot down the field. That really wasn't their game plan. They don't have the same guys that Oregon does. But he stepped up. He tackled,
He
really,
tackled
well
really well
on the
edges,
perimeter.
yeah.
And so you can only kind of do what you can do. You can't simulate 50-yard passes if they're not going to throw them. But they did run a lot of those screens, short stuff, and he was on point. Did a great job there. So that,
I agree with you on that, and especially after that first pass.
yeah.
I mean, I think Joel Klatt was even like, "Well, the freshman knows who to go after
Yeah.
after the Oregon game." It's like, "Whoa, that's where he's at after one bad game." But yeah, he did. I mean, he was staunch on the edges there. He came up and made a lot of hits. So good for him. I'm torn on giving one away, but I do think the defense came together when we needed them to. I mean, you get the interception all the way down into the under the 10-yard line to make that stop at a big time in the game. I think that was huge. And then, getting the interception at the end of the game to seal it. I mean, another stop in the fourth quarter when we needed to have it and things weren't really going great. So they bent, but they didn't break. And, I'll give the defense my Buckeye lead.
So the big outing for Carnell Tate, 100 yards.
Mhm.
He had the opening touchdown there, strong catch, good route down the middle. Will Howard, capable of throwing that deep ball where it needed to be. So I thought Howard played a great game.
Yeah.
He had the one throw, maybe 2 throws that he wanted back.
Yeah.
I think Ohio State needs to probably lean on him more. I mentioned it earlier to you, Bob. Like he's probably going to have to run against Penn State for the Buckeyes to do what they need to do. But Carnell Tate, he's often overshadowed because of Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Ibuka. I think if he played anywhere else, he would be a Biletnikoff finalist. He is.
Oh, yeah.
He is
Yeah,
that.
he's legit.
He's
When he
that
got
good.
in here, I thought he was like, this guy will be the next Marvin.
Yeah.
Like, he's really good. He has.
That's what
the
Marv
lead
said
ability.
too, right?
Yeah.
Marvin said
This
the same
guy
thing.
is further along than I was when I was a freshman.
That's what he said a year
What a
ago.
great
so-
compliment.
Yeah.
Hopefully he
And-
reminds himself of that. Carnell.
And he was hurt a year ago. Like some of the foot injury kept him from really. He still got a lot of reps, but he was not physically at the level where he is now. And I think if Ohio State becomes more of that pass heavier version, which I feel like it's going to have to be at this point with the way that the offensive line is struggling to open up holes for the rushing attack, it's pretty beneficial to have Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, and Emeka Ibuka on your team. That's quite a power trio. and 3 is the
It's
magic.
not even
number.
any
Talking about
left.
trios.
What you can
Jay-Z
see,
gave these glowing reviews.
These. Mwah.
I'm curious to see Berm's critical Berm on his eye, but
Yeah.
we've got the appetizer of the week, the featured. It's $3 all day long on Tuesday. 1, 2, 3 appetizer Tuesday. It's mac and cheese bites. It's the mac
The world
and cheese.
famous.
Yeah.
Got a nice crisp
Often
on the
it-
outside,
gooey.
gooey on the inside.
Don't wish you were a kid again.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Takes me back.
What's this dipping sauce?
And that is
Sour
It's the old
cream.
sour
You can
cream.
get
It goes
ranch
well
if
with
you
it. You
want
get
it.
spicy ranch if you're so inclined. But any dip. You
Yeah.
can eat them by themselves. Put hot sauce on them like Berm.
He loves.
And then cry.
Schlegel's favorite too.
they are
Berm has
Schlegel's
already
favorite.
attacked these with the hot sauce move, so we'll get
Yes.
his review for that when we get into the second half of the show. But we can't let Nicole go without giving us a score prediction so that we know
Yes.
what's going to happen.
Well, and guys, we've got to remind everyone it's the last
Oh
week
my
to
gosh.
register for the Buckeye
Golly.
giveaway.
oh, how could
Last
I forget,
week-
Nicole?
Yes. So we've got Michigan
week to go.
tickets. We have tickets to the playoff game
The Sun
that
Bowl.
the Buckeyes playing. We have a Coach Diepler package, and
It's part of the
we
playoffs.
have like a awesome fan experience for the Indiana game as well.
Last week
Which
to register.
is looking like a great.
Big
They may have
matchup.
Oh
game day
my-
back here
It
again.
might be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't miss out because 57 million people have already registered. You don't want to be on the outside looking in.
Register every day; it helps. And then
Oh, so it might just be 5 million people that registered
Every day.
maybe.
Ten.
All season long.
10 times. Got it.
Score prediction. I know this is going to sound weird, but I said it before I even realized it. But 21-17 is what my gut says, which is the score from this past week. But
It'll feel a lot different if Ohio State wins this game 21-17.
it will feel a lot different. But I think just from what the score's been in the past, how the teams look, that's what I'm going with.
It's going to be a physical slugfest. We're going to talk a lot more about what to expect from Ohio State and Penn State when we come back in here. Thanks to Nicole Cox, as always, and Roosters for having us because it's a fun casual joint.
Hey, Buckeye fans! As the official wing sponsor of Ohio State Athletics, Roosters is kicking off an incredible giveaway you won't want to miss. This football season, we're giving away 12 ultimate Buckeye experiences. 3 drawings, 12 winners with prizes including tickets, sideline passes, and 2 trips to a Buckeye playoff game. Go to roosterswings.com to register and see all the details. 3 drawings, 12 amazing prizes. Register today and every day. Roosters, a fun, casual joint.
Welcome back into Roosters. It's a fun casual joint, and the fun is being ramped up because Positive Berm is here, and he's got some silver linings to talk about from Saturday.
That's a great. You know what?
no.
Because you call it silver linings with Berm.
Silver linings with Berm.
Oh, he,
You know,
went,
the thing
he went
is-
really quiet. I don't think that's ever happened.
The thing is, I'm not like I'm trying
The
to
Gray
look back
Street.
at Saturday, and I think I'm more sad than anything else. Okay, because I understand how sports works. Okay, like sometimes you don't get up for a game all the time, right? But there's zero excuse to not getting up for a game when you had an off week, coming off a huge disappointing loss. We knew there was going to be hiccups on Saturday based on
New left tackle.
new left tackle. You're not playing Lathan Ransom not out
Safety.
there. Will Kazmarek not out there. I just don't think that team was prepared to play a football game at all, and I don't know how that's possible. But beyond that, I think it's just puzzling. Like, so you know that you have a left tackle out there that can't block anybody because you've been watching him in practice for 2 weeks. So either A, you're lying to yourself and saying he's the best option we have, or B, you're saying we're just going to see how it looks in the game because we don't.
Well, maybe
What
it
if
didn't,
it's
what
C? What if
it didn't look as bad?
Then
in
why do you
practice?
not play Bennett Christian out there? He played less snaps against Nebraska than he did against Oregon. You know you need help out there. So,
Yeah.
but the offensive game plan was to just do what? Keep running the ball into the middle of a line that's being decimated. I just didn't understand. There was no adjustment at halftime offensively. And it just seemed like they were like, well, we're just going to get through this one, and it's going to be fine. And I just don't understand that. But then I get home on Saturday night, and I'm watching other football, right? And even though I'm watching Wisconsin play Penn State, which Penn State certainly did not play a good football game,
No.
I
thought they were gonna
and then I
lose.
flip around and I'm watching Michigan State, or whatever other game was on.
So I thought Michigan was going to lose.
In every game I'm watching coaching staffs try and stress their opponent. Multiple shifts, trick plays, anything to just get people going.
Yeah.
And Ohio State just doesn't ever do it. They do not stress their opponent. They do not stress their opponent on special teams. They're nobody trying to block.
Hey,
a
Caleb
kick.
Downs in there.
Fine, 8-yard return. He tried.
Well, what did you? There's times where he's catching the ball, and there's guys from me to you. Like
this
you
is
want
a similar.
to still go with it.
I think that there is a way as a coaching staff you can say we are going to make our opponent try to stop us. And Ohio State seems that first 4th and 1 is totally indicative of everything. You come out of the gate, the crowd is obviously on edge because of you're coming back into the stadium after a loss. Defense is roaring in that first 3 plays. You get a stop, they hit a crappy punt, you get the ball at the 28-yard line.
Yeah,
let's go.
And then 4th and 1, you just do
I was kinda
this
disappointed
slow ass
Caleb
developing. Like I was like, what are you doing? That play's never going to work. That play was never going to work. And I felt like the similar. No one likes to talk about the Bengals. Like it's the Bengals. Like the 4th down that they threw this ball to Jamar Chase yesterday in the flat when you're down by 4 points and you go for it on your own 38-yard line for some reason, and you call a play is not going to go anywhere. But let alone when it's slow, it's your entire line is new, getting just wiped out. It was just gross.
Was there a reason you think when Zen went down, they kick obviously Donovan Jackson out, they brought Luke Montgomery in, that Austin Servo didn't go in?
I wonder what would have happened if there was another drive, because I was very confused about that decision.
Because Austin had played guard in lieu
he's
of
started multiple
Donovan
games.
Jackson. And I thought it played pretty well. And then when Tegra went down, they even put him in on the right side against Oregon.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and I was like,
well, he'd played in every game.
yes, and played pretty well. And I saw that, and I'm up there with Lachey and Keels, and I'm like looking, and I'm like 51 is Luke? 52?
51.
And I'm like, I think they're going with Luke. Like, is they're looking and trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, that's the sense that I'm getting with who's talking to whom down there.
Yeah.
And I just was kind of surprised. And not that Luke maybe couldn't do it, or maybe he isn't the best option, but just based upon what you've seen, like you said, Berm, like what you've seen. And
Like you've seen it.
yeah.
So I don't know, man. You just watch it, and then, like I said, then I go watch other football, and I'm seeing these teams. Like Penn State is not that good, but boy, oh boy, their offense. You watch them, and you have no idea what
Because
they're
they
doing.
have
Because
Kinnick back
yeah,
there.
their offense coordinator, like Chip Kelly's a great offense coordinator. And I don't mean to come out and say he called a bad game on Saturday, but it was uninspired from top to bottom on the entire team. And
There was a period in the game where I thought that Ryan Day was going to take play calling back, so I don't know that he felt like Chip called a great game.
Yeah,
it was just uninspired, and it goes back to a bigger issue that I think people have consistently had, is that I don't know who were the leaders of this team. And when you brought back this entire roster, all this money that's been talked about the entire offseason about why all these guys came back, and the leaders on this team are Will Howard and Caleb Downs, 2 guys that have been in the program for 8 months. Mm-hmm. And where are the other guys? Where is the passion from the other guys? Why is this team not have a vocal leader in Donovan Jackson, who's been there for 4 years, or JT Tuimoloau for 4 years, or Cody Simon, who I mean we all know him personally. He's a great leader, and everyone leads different. Yeah. I know they're getting what they want out of him as a player, as a person, but sometimes there has to be somebody to grab someone else by their face basket and say, "Wake up," and it's just not happening, and I don't know why.
So, Will's a pretty passionate player, I think. I think Caleb is, and for not knowing him and watching him kind of feel his way out in the spring, and those guys, neither one of them stepped up in the spring, like tried to take control, which I don't think you should do when you transfer in immediately.
Said they wanted to
they deferred.
Earn the trust over time.
And earn the trust, but I've watched those guys, how they've handled that. There needs, like, some of it's just personality based, and I wish I could tell people, like, be this or be that. And there's some guys that are introverted, some that are extroverted, but there's certain guys that are just like highly emotional with the way that they go about it. And it can be a detriment at times when that's the case. But I mean, I don't know if those other guys that's what they are.
We've all had conversations with Jack Sawyer. We know he is that type of guy.
He can.
Why does he not do that on the field?
And I'm not sure.
I think the 2 guys that we were talking about, though, are in kind of that leadership position. A safety, All-American, quarterback who's a 5th-year vet. I mean, those are guys on those sides of the balls to me that are like, all right, that should be your guy. Mm-hmm. Now maybe a linebacker on defense, somebody who's calling the play, somebody maybe who can get up, in your face a little bit more. But I just feel like naturally, those are the guys that should be.
Yeah.
Now,
To me, naturally, it should be the guys that have been in the program for 4 years,
well,
and not the guys that are brand
there's
new.
something to be said for that. 100%.
To me, it should be the guys that all came back and said, we're coming back because we haven't reached any of our goals, and yet come out here and sleepwalk.
Does that change who you are?
I think it should.
I mean,
Shouldn't it? I mean, being motivated to reach your goals.
it's not motivated. It's just
It's just an entitled group, man. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it's hard to watch. It feels to me like watching the 2015 team. Only this team hasn't earned anything or won anything. It feels like the 2015 season where it's just by guys like, well, we're just going to roll our helmets out there and it's fine because we're Ohio State and we're better. You're not. You're not better than. Tell me on this schedule. Yeah, they played a very, very bad pre-conference schedule. Tell me which game they were like. They went out there. We keep saying they haven't lived up to they're not playing up to their expectations. When have they this season played up to that expectation? 10 minutes against Iowa in the second half?
Yeah, I think there's been spurts that we've seen it. Just the consistency over a 60-minute game. I don't think that they put that on film yet. I don't think that's
which is damning. I think. I mean, that's we're heading
2 months into
the season. Yeah,
two months into the season. November is for contenders.
For contenders, that's right.
You hope that they, to Berm's point, I don't know that we can argue that. Have we seen what we view as the best version of Ohio State? If we have, that's going to be problematic because this team will not win on Saturday. It will not accomplish its goals. Not just Penn State, but Indiana. And even in a rivalry game against a bad version of Michigan, if Ohio State continues to play with the lack of urgency that it showed on Saturday, and maybe it won't because, Bob, you mentioned it can be hard to get up for a team that loses 56-7 the week before. You know that in every world on paper you should just roll Nebraska. Like maybe that won't happen to them again. But I don't know because we haven't seen it consistently from this team yet.
I guess Iowa was a game. I think the first real game that they probably had circled.
I thought it was an important. I thought they played well against Iowa,
and I thought they did.
They were up 7-0 in half.
Yeah, but they played well in the second half.
Sure, they played fine. But did they play up to the was that a championship level performance by
I think
Ohio State?
the Oregon game had championship level elements to it. Like you lost to one of the best teams in the country by a point on the road. Like it wasn't like
that's why this weekend is so
this is
difficult for people to swallow.
I understand that. Yes, the variability of the performance, and I don't know, like you said, if there's the term bell cow, like an emotional bell cow out there for that team. I don't know who that is, and I don't know if they truly have one. And as much as like your safety once can be that guy, I don't know if on defense it can be a guy that's all the way in the back. Again, I don't know if it can, just because of the physical nature and like being demonstrative and the stature of that, it needs to almost be one of your box players.
Yeah,
like
but it's not.
And that's, again, I remember the team where like the defense over the years past, we've talked about this, that some of the guys like Cam Brown may have been that, or
John Simon,
or even Damon Arnett. Yeah. Well, yeah, but those guys were corners, and you look like John Simon was that guy. Yeah. But John Simon was defensive end who, like, if he grabbed somebody on the team, they knew about it.
Yeah,
and like it's a little.
And the
tougher.
title team had Mike Bennett and Josh Perry, and
there were guys, and like I said, there were guys that you could get.
Darren Lee. I mean,
Darren Lee was
psychopath,
very,
but like he was an emotional guy.
Well, that's part of. I mean, that's the yin and the yang, Berm. I mean, those guys. I'm being dead serious with that. Is the best. You talk about those guys who are emotional, and I don't. Because there's probably a lot of that to my personality, and when you lose an outlet for, that's why some of those guys struggle off the field at times. But those are the guys who, I mean, they'll fight you right out there on the field. They're like right on the edge all the time.
All the time.
I mean, they may yell at their coach, they may yell at their teammates, they may yell at a ref, like they might fight a fan on the way up in. But like, there's never any doubt that it means something.
I try really hard not to listen too much to what former players have say about the current team, okay? Because I realize everyone lives in the world of when I was a kid, I was up, it was way harder. We did this, way different. But obviously, you're standing there on the field on Saturday talking to a wide number of the 2014 team, who a lot of guys who I haven't seen in a decade, and that's 10 years, not 30. Yeah,
it's not that long.
They're like, wow, we don't. Where is the fire? Where is the passion? Yeah. And I mean, it is, if there's one glaring weakness or one thing to circle in the Ryan Day era, where you're like, it's too professional sometimes. It's too NFL. college football is about passion. It is about fire, and they just don't have it, and I don't know why they don't have it. And some of it I think is NIL in this new world and guys just being. I think that there's a large swath of players who enter the Ohio State program and think, well, I made it, and you didn't.
Yeah,
you didn't.
I mean,
you haven't won anything.
Well, and that's you failing. Like the entitlement piece is probably there, where because people have won before, when you put on the jersey and you wear that number and whatever that is.
I thought that was the part that they had washed out with this group coming back.
Yeah.
Because
that's what we were
They
told.
came back for a reason because they.
And I
had
think
stuff
like
that
if
they wanted to
you
have
watch
happen,
those
they hadn't
guys
had.
work in the offseason, I'm telling you, that
That's why
doesn't
there's this giant
it's a
disconnect. Because we saw it this offseason. And then during the season comes in, it's Saturday. They just roll in there. I mean, got sleepy. It was just very, very weird on Saturday.
I was hungover and tired. I don't know what their excuse was.
I hope it wasn't.
Maybe that's the solution.
Yeah.
Like you got to go in there with an edge a little bit. Like if you're sitting there and the first time you hit somebody, ooh gosh, like that bell gets rung, like it
Last
feels
night.
a little rough.
Yeah.
Like you need
JC
to-
and I play our best golf when we're hungover.
That's
you need to- if you didn't bend over to tee your ball up and think about throwing up on your hand,
Yeah, are you
then
really
know
doing
what?
it right?
Are you ready?
Yeah,
You're
are
not
you-
ready to go.
Spill a little breakfast
I
sandwich
laugh
on the
about
shirt.
that, but like John Cooper, like
we had dudes that go out.
they were just dudes that had an edge to them. Like it didn't even matter. Like I'll go out on Thursday night. I'll be fine. Sleep Friday. We'll get up, and you know what? I'm gonna during the game. I'm talking about going out and getting drunk afterwards and what I'm gonna do. But when I get in there, I'm gonna try and knock somebody's head off.
It's hard to like try and make sense of what happened on Saturday. Like
I know it is.
there is no excuse for that team to come out the way they did. Zero.
Bob, did you think that Ohio State tried anything different on defense?
They brought more pressure.
Mhm.
Like that was definitive. And then they did some more of the Rushman stuff, and they were getting Caden and getting Kenyatta in there.
Can I ask you why?
They're inside. And
They're inside?
That's, believe me, I saw that running out. And
Edric Houston playing in the first parts of the game. He's inside.
I think Edric honestly has the frame that he would be a better inside guy, to tell you the truth.
Probably. But
But-
he also doesn't have the strength that a guy who's been in the program for 4 years
And
does.
that's also part of it. Like, believe me, there's a lot of
I just want to know if I'm alone in this, and I know like Zach Bourne and I talk about
part.
it
You
a
are
lot.
not alone.
Like, why
It's not your fault, Will.
would those? If you are just picking from those four exclusively, that's what the Rushman package is going to be, and that's what it's been for several weeks. I don't understand how anyone would look at those four people and say that's how you should line them up.
I don't think it's bad to maybe do that occasionally, but that would not be my primary pitch.
Okay,
Like I would say that you can do that as your change up, but
Just
that's
take
not,
a
Change
straw
up, yeah,
poll.
switch it up a little bit.
like you can do things and move some guys around. Like, okay, we'll do this and we'll stunt. And
But
do
the
some
power players are Jack and JT. Like,
I believe me, and they would be better. It would be better for them,
To prepare them for the
career
next level.
wise, and even as players for production to be inside. Like just with what they do.
I
well.
think opponents right now are ecstatic when they see the Rushman package. Because not only can they can run the ball, which we saw Oregon do, but they also know they're not going to get any pressure up the middle. Because I love Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson. They are edge players.
Yes.
They are not interior players.
Right. That worked 7 years ago when you had Tyquan Lewis and Sam Hubbard on the inside because you had Nick Bosa and Chase Young on the outside.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a little different.
Well, and also you go look at how big Tyquan and
Right. They were 6'5",
Sam.
275 pound guys.
Yes. I mean,
Which remind me which of these defensive ends are 6'5",
listen,
275
I understand
pounds.
what you're telling me. I'm on your team with that. I do think another good thing that we saw, I thought Lorenzo Styles played pretty well. And I also thought, my goodness, my man
Jalen
Jermaine
McClain.
Jermaine Matthews played
Jermaine Matthews played
excellent.
well.
He played.
He got in there because I don't think that that's what he does best. Like he can play inside corner. I don't love Jermaine off the ball. Like not that he can't do it. I just think he's a much better. He has. Listen, you want to talk about a guy that's got a
There's a
little edge,
shankability.
He's got the edge.
but it's tough being a corner. Like I wish I could take his mentality and just cut his brain and put it into one of the bigger dudes.
Yeah.
You know, because there's like Schleggs, to quote Schleggs, there's like 100 little pit bulls inside his stomach just ready to come out and bite somebody.
Speaking of, Damon Arnett was there on Saturday in the crowd with Stacey Elliott sitting in the front row.
Hey,
And I was like, I was walking by and
You
I heard-
didn't tell me Damon was there?
No, I was walking by.
I love
I was
Damon.
walking by and someone's like, Jeremy, and I looked at it with Stacey Elliott, and then like Damon was like, wow, this is weird.
About that.
Oh, I can't believe Rico was in the building. He
So
didn't let
who
me
else
know.
played well on Saturday, right? We can. I'm going to give my Buckeye leaves to Will Howard, who I think continues to play at a very high level, and I can't for the life of me figure out why they threw it only 16 times in a game where you knew you couldn't run the ball. And where did the RPO game go on Saturday?
They were running those options with the passes and a lot of great stuff earlier.
Where did it go?
That would have been a good thing. Like, let's just try
when you
this.
have no offensive line, that's what you do. And Caleb Downs, who's just
Caleb's really good.
he's so good.
He's one of the best tacklers I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
he's
good,
an
isn't he?
elite player. And I
If he doesn't make the one,
well, there's at least 2 times he made a touchdown saving tackle in that game. But I think maybe because
He's Antoine Winfield.
his
is what he
statistical
is.
stuff doesn't show up all the time of everything that he's doing, but man, he is so good. And
he had 5 tackles officially that I felt was like 50.
but when he makes them, they're always
through
Because there's no one else around, and it's him.
They
And a
should
lot
count-
of space.
Let's count him
And
double.
he's like a little pit viper. And then
Solid tackle.
he's like he reminds me so much of Antoine Winfield, and like his son, which he didn't offer here, and I'm gonna lose my mind. But like you go watch him play, it's a very similar style.
his son,
game.
who's the highest paid safety in the NFL.
He was too slow,
He
Berm.
camped at Ohio State and ran a 4.31, and they said no.
It's too small.
What is your level of concern that Ohio State will not show up to the level that they need to win the game on Saturday?
I'll tell you this. I think it's probably
What was it before Saturday?
I don't know, 6 or 7 maybe.
Before Saturday?
Before, because I believe this. Like they all felt that. Sometimes when you go on the road, the energy's there because it's manufactured for you. Because you were walking in to a fight or flight response situation to where people are throwing stuff at you, telling you you're terrible. And honestly, the quotes, I think defensively they'll be fine. And offensively, it's like, is there the fire? Is there the drive? Like, sometimes you got to grow into it a little bit. And I know that Will is named the starter or whatever. Now we're 6-7 games into this thing. And Will is a Pennsylvania kid. He's got a 484 area code. So that narrows it down to about 999,000 numbers that I gave out people. They can figure out his phone number. But he's a 484 guy. And like the statements that he had, like that was always my place. I can't wait. I'll be ready to go. Like they didn't want me. I wasn't good enough.
We'll see if I'm good.
We'll see.
Find out.
We'll see. Like
I love everything about Will Howard. I think it's actually unbelievable to me that we're in a position like Ohio State basically did and had 0 Will Howard run game in the game plan for Saturday. And somehow we've reached a point in the offensive evolution where it feels similar to how it did the last handful of years. We're like, we can't afford to have our starting quarterback get hurt. So the one element to his game where you're like,
That's the difference maker.
that's the difference maker. Now it's still being taken away.
I don't care. You know what's worse than him? You know what will be worse than being hurt?
Losing.
Yes. I
He's gonna
guarantee you, he would tell you that.
He is willing to run.
He might have to Jackie Moon this thing.
He's gonna have, and I think he's gonna have to run.
Everybody love everybody.
Everybody love everybody.
Call my own. Do it myself.
Jay-Z, what's your level of concern for Saturday?
It's higher than I thought it would be. I just
Take another puff and find out.
well, I mean, I agree with Bob. I think our defense will be fine. I think they're going to be okay. Offensively, this offensive line, I'm just not sure. I mean, Will has been great. Receivers are awesome. You know, rushing for only 64 yards against Nebraska last week. I don't think that was
It can't get any worse.
where they want it to be. Very good.
It can't get it. They rushed.
Well,
it
you say that now,
31
but
times
yeah, I mean,
for 64 yards or whatever it was.
that's not what I like going into a big game on
That's
the
other-
road.
like, why is it
20
2 to
carries for Travion and Clinshaw for 40 yards.
2 to 1 run to pass ratio is just not how this team is designed or equipped
It
right
would
now.
be fine if they had 300 yards
Well,
on 30 carries,
of
or even
course.
200, or even
100.
150.
Let's
I would have been good
let's
with.
get over 100.
Even 30 for 100, I'm like,
yeah,
that's okay.
at least you were making progress.
Yes.
30 for 60 is not
It's not good.
So what does that front five look like
Especially
going
in
into Penn State?
Especially in a game where Emeka Ibuka is touching it 3 times.
Well, here's the thing. I was curious, like, why didn't we do a little mech run game too? Like, that was something we had against.
Why didn't they keep doing it against Oregon? Like, I don't know.
It was like Tecmo Super Bowl offense on Saturday. It was very weird. It's 8 plays, and like if the other
And
team
Bo
guessed
Jackson
your, if
wasn't
the other
back there.
guesses your
if the other
play.
team guessed your
Yeah.
play, you had no chance.
You're just done.
So like that's how it was, and it's
Gonna
like
run up and
the
A.
only pass plays were like straight, like
Yeah.
jet. Okay, but you have good enough players to make that work. But then they didn't do that
They
anymore.
ran a reverse with our guy Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, he scored on it, right? Yeah.
I'm like, you try that. They're stopping everything
Just
else.
do something.
And stopping
You
the run.
took 2 deep shots, and the guys were open by 15 yards on both of them. Why did you not keep trying that? And you know what we should do instead? Let's just run the ball.
It's
right
tough
into
when
the
you
back
only
of our-
have. I mean, how many possessions did they have? Like,
I don't know. It was the reality is Ohio State ran. If you take away the 3 kneel downs at the end of the game, 44 offensive plays.
jeez. We ran it 25 minutes. I mean, when you're down 10 minutes in possession, that is an eternity.
Now,
But they went 3 and out.
you ran
so
44
many
plays,
times.
and it was 16 passes when you could not pass. You could
You're
not
gonna run the ball, yeah. Maybe you think the pass opens up the run, but no, they just keep pounding away.
Yeah, I mean, I think this team is going to have to look more like the wide open pass first Ryan Day teams. Like that's whatever the situation is going to be at left tackle. It doesn't matter. Ohio State's Quinshon
not your
Judkins
fault.
and Travion Henderson
It's not your fault.
Yeah, they have to be involved, but as
are
we
good
saw on Saturday,
players, great players.
there's ways to get them involved that aren't in the running game. Also,
Quinshon caught a touchdown
Caught a
pass.
he
touchdown
caught the
pass.
game-winning touchdown.
A guy, when he released, I could see that dude had no chance. I'm like, throw him the ball. Throw him the ball.
There are
He's so
ways.
far out of position right now. Please throw it to him. Will.
There are ways to get them involved. There are ways to prevent the defensive line and linebackers from triggering that quickly. There's things you can do like draws or screens or
Even this, like when you throw it that deep, throwing the ball to those guys on the check down might end up being 12 yards.
No, for sure.
Because
Might
they're
be
going
a
to catch it
touchdown.
at 5, somebody miss. They're pretty fast
Maybe, yeah.
and good in the open field, and that's okay.
okay. It was just an uninspired performance, top to bottom. And if that, I mean, so like you're asking, what was concern before Saturday about Penn State? Mine would have probably been like 2. Today it's probably 7.5.
See, I went from like maybe a 6 or 7 down to a 2 because I know it can't be that bad again.
Again, yeah. They're gonna hear about it all week and come out and play. And
There's
Get
no
up for a
possible
game.
way.
The only reason I think it can be is because we've seen in the Ryan Day era how quickly his teams can get into their head. It can just sink into their own heads and allow themselves to out. And I think that was part of the issue Saturday. I said in our snap judgments, I think there was a little paralysis by analysis of like, okay, whoa, we have all these problems now. And some of it, like you feel like snake bitten. You have 2 positions really on this team heading into the season where you're like, left tackle and safety. If there's any depth issues there, any problems, we got problems.
You
And then
found some.
have
You
2
found
guys.
some. You found some solutions at safety. Like that looked all right.
Jalen McCain played fine. They have guys there they can move around. Like you're like, oh man, these are the 2 spots we can't afford to lose someone, and those are the spots you lose someone. So it's like I do worry that they can get into their own head. And my bigger concern is right now is that does this team believe in Ryan Day? And you're around him all the time. Is there a chance of a splinter? Is there a chance of a fracture inside of the locker room?
I think the guys that you talked about came back. I think it's interesting. Like those guys are all wholly bought in. They're just not the most. Jack Sawyer probably is the one dude, but a lot of those they're just not overly extroverted guys. Like Mitchell Mountain called Corey like Cobot. Like Corey is he'll
Cody.
say what he needs to do. Yeah, Cody. Sorry, Corey. Yeah, Cody. He'll say what he needs to say and do this, but like he's not like a big personality. Just bounce around. He's like Tommy 2.0.
But you can see it when you talk to Cody.
Yes, he cares. You can see the intensity and passion in his eyes, but they don't have anybody that's out there. I've said this, and I'll tell those guys all the time. Like, you want people to cheer for you, give them something to cheer about. Make big plays, get excited, celebrate with each other. People will get excited when they see other people getting excited. It's a contagious phenomenon. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And you know what? Point to people in the crowd. Get off your damn hands and start cheering.
And I don't want to be accused of bull-siding this at all because
It's all right.
I know people.
We know you like a double cider.
Sure. Sometimes you need cheese on both sides of the bread. I believe firmly in Ryan Day as the man in charge of this program. I wonder how much he's able to get out of certain parts of his team. Like how is he able to pull out that fire from them? Because I just haven't seen it.
He has
lately.
been far more animated this year.
I know,
Like,
absolutely,
even
yes.
outside, I'm talking at practice around him. Like I would play for him.
There's only
watch
so
him.
much you can do as a coach,
That's what I'm
right?
like,
I mean, your players got to go out
I
and do
like
it.
what this guy's doing.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm
always.
saying. I don't doubt him. I just there's a There's a passing of the guard that's going to be occurring here in this program in the next 6 months, no matter what. And I hope it's not taken out on him. But I think there is a need for a new wave of players who are coming in with a little bit less
California penal league.
belief that they are owed things.
Well, I don't know how that's going to really change in the NIL era because they show up demanding
that's
things.
the hard part.
I mean, you're going to have to figure that.
They don't even show up if they don't
Everyone
get
does.
sometimes.
Everyone's got to figure that out. Jay-Z, what's the score going to be on Saturday?
Oh, golly Moses. Coming out of that game Saturday night, I'm like, we're done next week.
But then you watch Penn State.
But then,
you thought-
Penn State, they're not the world beaters. I mean, they're ranked top 5.
Wisconsin had a good shot at.
Yeah.
Drew Allers got a little bit of an injury.
He's a little banged up,
Dennis
right?
Sutton's
So
got an injury that he's carrying. So
saying those guys play and they're at full strength, I would say 28-24. The Bucks pull one out on the road.
okay.
I
Berm?
don't-
Bob?
Well, go Berm. I want to hear your.
It's early in the week. I think it's 24-17 Penn State. I don't think Ohio State's going to win that game.
Because I'm more of this low-scoring belief. The amazing thing about us,
it's got to be, right? It
the
has to be
amazing
low-scoring.
thing about every time we've gone there, Ohio State has gone there. Even when they've played bad, they have had something miraculous happen. Outside of the 2016, whether it's Benjamin Victor catching the ball and weaving through the defense, like James Franklin watching his life flash before his eyes. I mean, like there's all kinds of crazy things that have happened.
That was one of the craziest.
I'm like, nobody's
That might
going
be
to
the
tackle
most
this
improbable
guy.
play in Ohio State
I'm
offense.
like, Benjamin's got like 4 balls all year. Throw it to him on the under, and he weaves for 40. I'm going to say Ohio's. I like it's going to be tight, but I think it's I'm going to say 21-17. Is that what you said, Jay-Z?
That's at 28-24.
That was Nicole's score. You guys are feeling
I
it the
mean,
same
I
way.
see like this. It could be like a 22-16 game, some sort of
Yeah,
weird
it'd be
field
weird.
goalness.
There are also weird scores in the Ohio State Penn State series. It's always something strange, something you've never seen before. It's going to be Saturday at noon. Could be both presidential candidates in the building. Who knows? Might be a very difficult thing for everyone to get to, including Berm and myself. But we will be there to cover it. Interesting week ahead for Ohio State. It's great to kick it off as always at Roosters, a fun casual joint on a Monday. Thanks to Nicole Cox. Thanks to Justin Zwick. Thanks to Bobby Carpenter. Thanks to Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Have a great week, folks. We'll see you next time at Roosters.